It's also raised within you questions about male-female relationships.
Yes, because I had a lot of questions about that at the time. I was going through a very rough time in my own personal life, and I saw myself in a totally different light. That's why I'm particularly fond of this picture, because I felt the world didn't want to give me a chance in the business end of things because I wasn't going to make as much money as a man, and yet if I stayed home, I wasn't going to be respected for doing that. So I felt really caught. So when I went out and ran, the exhilaration of it was I was running with men, and they were my equals, and we got along so great. There was this relationship that I had with male athletes that transcended male or female, and it was just so unique and so delightful. And it's a treasured thing that you will always have, because you're not thought of as a man or a woman, you're thought of as an athlete, which is very interesting. But the point that I brought up to you earlier is that if women learn to really love their worth and what they really are, I really think that men would learn in turn to love women more instead of us. You know, some of the feminist things I think that we've gotten into have detracted from the beauty and the inner strength of womanhood. And I think that's the place I see this movie filling.
You know, along that line, I really totally agree with you. I find that each one of us is gifted in a different way. And each of us almost has to achieve certain things in our lives. You know, if I'm an artist, I have to work at that, or if I'm a teacher or whatever you do. We had a pastor who used to say, if you're going to be a garbage man, be a good garbage man.
Right.
Be a teacher,
That's
be a
what
good...
my parents used to say, be the best.
And if you can feel good about yourself, then you can look at other people with eyes of love rather than eyes of jealousy.
Well, see, this is the sharing process, and in the film, I also wanted to bring out the sharing and camaraderie of the women athletes towards each other. I was very disenchanted with seeing so many movies that made us out. We were always women in movies are notoriously competing for a male's attention, or we're always, you know, and I find that so upsetting, because there are many instances where another woman can help another woman and would be willing to do that. And I wanted to show that type of a friendship, and I wanted to show that sincerity of you know, helping someone to find themselves.
We see that in another poster that you have. We've run a long way.
Right.
What's that one about?
This was at the time when we were getting the women's marathon into the Olympics. Nike, along with the International Runners Committee, did this as sort of a commemorative piece on where women runners had come from. Obviously, they weren't running in Nikes. They were in high-step shoes and dresses, but even at that time in history, I guess they thought that athletic competition was of importance. That man sort of looking at them bewildered, but I think they look pretty dedicated. They're out there getting their exercise. I think it's important.
Now, talking about dedication, this is a picture of yourself when you're...
One of my finer moments. This was at the Pepsi National Championships in Purchase, my first one that I put together. We had the top world-class runners from all over the world, from all over the United States, I'm sorry, there. I ran against Mary Decker, and I did pretty well, 5th place after only 7 months of training.
Great.
And it was right again, like I said, we were all hoping they were going to have an Olympics, and so we were all kind of very geared up for that.
I guess the #1 runner right now is Greta Bates.
Greta, in terms of consistency and performance, I would have to say Greta, although I'm always going to be partial to Joan Benoit.
Extremely composed in the interview with Jim Lampley, stated exactly what she had to state. Normally you would be in such an exhausted state at that point. You really wouldn't even know what you were saying, but she was obviously aware of the questions and the answers and what was important and what was relevant. A lady who, as she said to Jim, started to smile when she saw that Bowdoin College banner that seems to follow her everywhere at the halfway mark. And she's a graduate of that school, 1979, majored in history and environment. Well, she's made some history of her own today. A lot of friends and yes.